Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we return to talking about our favorite stand-up comedian, the most based and anti-politically correct guy out there, who's anti-social justice warrior too, none other than the man, the legend, Dave Chappelle. Come on down, buddy. No, I'm kidding, he's not here. That'd be cool though. But Dave, of course, came back into the public spotlight a few months back when his new comedy special called Sticks and Stones came out on Netflix. That stand-up film was the first thing Netflix did right in a real long time, because not only were they hiring and promoting one of the best and edgiest comics of all time, but also they were clearly letting Chappelle do and say whatever he wanted there. Because if there were any censors or meddling going on with his special, it certainly wouldn't have come out the way it did. In fact, many liberals and leftists who were triggered by Chappelle, they were asking for him to be silenced, punished, and taken off the air, and even they probably would have loved to see Dave out on the street homeless and penniless if they had their way. Fortunately though, of course, the left has failed every time they've come after Dave Chappelle, and that's because we all love him, and he's a marvelous performer who entertains millions and brings joy and laughter to all of our lives. And perhaps Netflix would have wanted to ban something like Chappelle's special in other circumstances, because they are starkly left-wing and pro-SJW and very censorious most of the time. But at the same time, Netflix is also a company who wants to make money, and since they knew they would make money off of Dave, they released his special and didn't meddle with his work regardless. Capitalism will always trump socialism and PC culture and cultural Marxism too. That's why it's so important that viewers like us support and give props to comics like Dave Chappelle whenever we can. And although his special has been out for a good long while now, Dave has said some more recent things and dropped some more new red pills in recent interviews that I think are worth going over today. Hey, before we get to the rest of today's story, let's first take a moment to check out our loyal sponsors at Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a turn-based RPG game done right, and I know you've already heard about Raid everywhere, but there's a great reason for that. Raid is one of the top 3 ranked RPG games on the Google Play Store. The game is also crazy popular now too, with over 10 million mentions in just a few months. Raid's also a hero collection turn-based game with over 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. You can gather orcs, undead, knights, elves, and even more. And you can also assemble a team from 16 heroic factions. And the best part about Raid is it's absolutely free, so why not give it a shot today? Some other extra cool features in the game include new champions added each and every month. Raid is adding more than 14 new champions every month right now. Another cool feature is progression rewards. Once you complete these missions, you will get one of the best legendary champions in the game called the Arbiter. Pretty cool. And also, check out this cool roadmap they've just published. They actually have huge plans for updates in the game over the next 6 months too, so what are you guys waiting for? Go to the video description and click on special links and you will get over 50,000 silver and a free epic champion as a part of the new player program to start your journey. Thanks for your time today, and now back to the show. First, let's start with a great tweet and video which has Dave directly going after political correctness, and he's doing it in a smart, thoughtful, and totally accurate way as well. This happened last week, and here's a trending tweet about it from The Hill, who's attached a video that currently has 1.6 million views. Not bad. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Political correctness has its place, excuse me. We all want to live in a polite society. We just have to kind of work on the levels and come to an agreement of what that actually looks like.
Okay, so he may have misspoken a bit at the beginning, but he also turned it around into a great point. Political correctness certainly has its place. If you're having, say, a formal dinner with famous and political guests coming over, it's probably not appropriate to talk about your personal problems or your sex life or your private financial worries or revealing things about yourself. You're also going to want to dress proper too. That's part of being politically correct. Or for another example, if you're a high-profile politician, then the scrutiny on you is going to inevitably be much higher than most normal people, especially when you're compared to a more regular job like, say, a janitor or a bus driver. Those professions need very little scrutiny, and few would care what the political beliefs are or opinions are of someone like that. Or for a better example, if you're, say, a talk show host, podcaster, or a comedian like Dave Chappelle, well then it's actually expected for you to have an opinion on things, and your audience and the public looks forward to hearing what you think and what you have to say. That's how I see things when it comes to Chappelle saying political correctness has its place. It certainly should be considered in certain situations, and also certain people and professions and career paths have different and varying expectations as well. And that brings us to the real problem with PC policing people in current year. They are judging and pushing their radically progressive and often offensive itself rhetoric into places where it doesn't belong. For example, political correctness has no place in comedy clubs or in the realm of comedy specials and television and entertainment and streaming platforms you watch. Sure, some shows and specials can choose to aim at PC audiences, and family-friendly crowds can have their own shows if they choose, but not all comics and shows and media properties should be forced to be politically correct, which appears to be what progressives want, since they are constantly coming after comedy acts like Chappelle and trying to get him to either adhere to their starkly SJW ideologies and cater to their sensitive sensibilities, or else.
I personally am not afraid of other people's freedom of expression. I don't use it as a weapon. It just makes me feel better, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. Everything I'm supposed to say.
If you're paying attention, you can hear two things in Dave Chappelle's voice here. First, there's his serious, earnest, and heartfelt tone that's going on in the beginning, where he says he's not afraid of others' freedom of expression. And then he wraps things up by quickly apologizing for anyone he's supposedly hurt or offended, even going off into a yada 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 and making himself a fart noise like this. And that's completely fair too, because forcing him to apologize is pretty bogus. Sure, he goes along with it in jest here, and he gets to an "I'm sorry" just to shut people up about it, but the real important thing to note is, if you're offended or hurt or upset by Dave Chappelle and his comedy, that's really not his fault. You don't have to watch him, and you don't ever have to hear one of his shows if you don't want to. But if you choose to, know what you're getting into. Read the description on the Netflix menu or look it up online or wherever. Do your own due diligence when you prepare to watch anything, especially if you're one of the SJWs who gets triggered by everything, like this. But back to the beginning of this section now, Dave makes another good point too. PC people trying to censor others, they're essentially saying they're afraid and angered by others' freedom of expression. Freedom of speech and expression is one of the hallmark rights we have here in this wonderful country, but if it was up to the social justice warriors, they would silence everyone they disagree with. Sure, they come up with bogus reasons and out there examples of people supposedly getting hurt or offended, but the truth is, no one's words and none of Dave's jokes have ever hurt anyone, and being offended doesn't give you a right to silence and censor everyone else. Really, people who are offended all the time, they should be working on that themselves internally and trying to get stronger and more resistant to getting triggered by public discourse and entertainment. But instead, liberals act like offended people are special snowflakes who we should all cater to, and they think the world should be catered to these kinds of weak-willed, soft, always upset babies who probably have emotional and mental issues as well. So excuse us if we think the public zeitgeist should be dictated by average people who are level-headed and sane like us Americans, who not only outnumber these frail SJW wokerati types, but also we're stronger and more balanced and clearly sane. Because remember, we're not the ones crying about mean jokes and mean words on the internet like we're crying children on a middle school playground. And this is only the beginning of Dave's recent round of speaking out this week. For more information and quotes from what else he said, let's turn to an article from Fox called "Dave Chappelle Defends Freedom of Speech from Cancel Culture. First Amendment is First for a Reason." I like the sound of that already. Let's read on and see where this goes. Dave Chappelle spoke in favor of freedom of speech for comedians in the United States while accepting the prestigious Mark Twain Prize for American Humor on Sunday. The 46-year-old stand-up comedian received the accolade at the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C. He went off the cuff while accepting the award on stage, USA Today reports. "I don't get mad at him, don't hate him," he said while discussing comedians he knows to be racist. "Man, it's not that serious. The First Amendment is first for a reason. Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out." Wow. So now we not only have Dave supporting our First Amendment, our freedom of speech and expression, but also he's supporting the second, our right to bear arms and defend ourselves. Another hallmark right of the United States of America, given to us by the extremely smart and forward-thinking founding fathers. And well, first of all, it's worth giving Dave even more props here for not only speaking out against PC culture yet again, but also congratulations on winning the Mark Twain Prize, dude. Chappelle certainly deserves this, and this goes to show just how much he's beloved and respected in comedy and creative spaces. As for the bit about him shirking off other comics he knows to be racist, well, that's another good take for Dave too. The way I see it, he's basically saying, so what if a few people are secretly racist? People can think and believe what they want, especially in the privacy of their own homes. And when talking with friends and family too. So long as the so-called bigot isn't acting out in racist ways, like say yelling at minorities or firing them from jobs or even attacking them, God forbid, if there's actual physical evidence of real-world crimes and misdeeds that are tied to these bad beliefs, then sure, they deserve to be punished by the law. But if someone isn't hurting anyone and they're keeping to themselves and obeying the laws, then there's really no reason to even worry about them. They just think something dumb that you disagree with. This happens all the time too. There are plenty of people who think the earth is flat or the moon landing was a hoax, but I don't see the need to attack them or unperson them or fire them from their jobs and slander them in the news. And the same benefit of the doubt should be put in place for other people too, no matter how horrid their thoughts or beliefs are. Now sure, if they speak out and say racist things publicly, you certainly have a right to respond and criticize that, but we all know modern liberals are taking it way too far. And also, more often than not, the people they are attacking and criticizing, they aren't actually racist or bigoted at all. That's just the left's go-to term and insult, and something they call people they don't like or disagree with. And it's getting so damn unbelievable of a claim that it's bordering on the boy who cried wolf status. Finally, let's wrap this story up with one more example of Dave and also some other famous comics standing up against cancel culture. This article has some good stuff in it. It's called Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle, and more comedians weigh in bluntly on cancel culture. This should be another good one. Let's check this thing out. Comedians as a breed aren't well known for holding back. Now, many are sounding off in blunt terms about so-called cancel culture. Cancel culture is a term used to describe holding public figures responsible, usually via social media, for problematic comments and behaviors. People threaten to cancel or boycott people or companies in light of behaviors deemed objectionable. The custom is often turned towards comedians because many of the most prominent and successful ones show unabashed disregard for political correctness. Take Dave Chappelle, who recently spoke about cancel culture and its infringement on the First Amendment. Eddie Murphy expressed similar sentiments, saying that cancel culture isn't hindering stand-up comedy's growth. I think the art form is soaring higher than it's ever soared, Murphy 58 said to Yahoo Entertainment. Every now and then somebody might say something that ruffles somebody's feathers or steps on somebody's toes or whatever, but for the most part, it's bigger and more global and more diverse than it's ever been. Keegan-Michael Key suggested there's more to cancel culture than being offended. Sometimes we're offended, but other times, are you offended? Or are you afraid to hear something that maybe needs to be said? He told the outlet. Well, good thoughts here all around, guys. Eddie Murphy makes a good point that despite the tides appearing to be turned against comics now, it's still an industry that's bigger and more global than ever. Just 10 or 20 years ago, you had to slog through open mics and tour the country just to get any attention for yourself as a comedian. But nowadays, with the internet, smartphones, and streaming services like Netflix, comedy is being created and spread around more than ever. And perhaps that's another reason it's come into question all the time too, since we do know how the SJWs love attacking things that are popular. Finally, ending on what Keegan-Michael Key said is a good outro for this, because I think he makes a good point too. If you're a person who gets easily offended, well, first of all, you're probably not watching this no bullshit show. But if you are, I would like to encourage you to take a moment and do some much needed introspection and consider why you're so offended by comedians and jokes and straight up facts like this. Is it really because you think these words are terrible, bigoted, and dangerous to people? Or more likely, is it because most snowflakes and SJWs who are triggered about this, they're just too stubborn or too afraid to hear what needs to be said, and they're too weak to take in the kinds of harsh and controversial truths that are usually dished out at comedians' shows like this? What do you guys think? Was Dave Chappelle right when he slammed PC culture again? Do you agree with him about upholding our rights as Americans? Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.